Hey guys, welcome to my console ranking tier list, where I rank every console I've ever owned. If there's a console that isn't on this list, you can assume I've never owned it. And also, I'm not including handhelds, even though I have owned some, mostly because I'm not really that into them and I just don't have much to say about them. But first, let me go over my general criteria for the ranking. As far as like games and stuff for specific consoles, there might be a situation where certain games and exclusives it might weigh the ranking a little bit up or a little bit down, depending on the situation. But in general, I'm gonna try to focus on the totality of the game library for each console, just how many games in total, the quality of all the games in total for that specific console, if that makes sense. And of course, the exclusives are going to play into that as well. So keep that in mind. And also, I want to focus on, what features does each console have? How well does this console perform? Is it powerful? Are there any special features that, set it apart? How does the controller feel? We're going to get into the controllers for sure. And, how is the user interface, the software, all that shit. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it. Starting off with the PS1. Now, the PS1 was the first gaming console that I ever had. And I remember playing this as a really little kid, like before I could even read, pretty much. I was playing PS1. And this was kind of the transitionary period in gaming where it's like you're moving into 3D for the first time, right? And honestly, the PS1 was capable of some pretty crazy shit for its time. I mean, it depends on the game, of course, but like if you get the right dev team and the right, game to really push the graphics to their limits, there were some really cool effects that could be done on the PS1. Now, I will say the one thing I don't like about all PlayStation consoles really is the controller. I don't think they're bad. But like having the analog sticks right next to each other as opposed to the offset sticks that you see on Xbox and GameCube and such, like it just doesn't feel as good. And like once I tried the offset sticks, I really just never wanted to go back. And by the way, the OG PS1 controllers didn't even have sticks. They just had the D-pad. So that kind of sucks. But so the game library for the PS1. So to be honest, it goes hard. It goes hard, dude. I mean, think about it. You got Silent Hill 1, you got Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 8, Final Fantasy 9. I mean, you got Crash Bandicoot, you got Gran Turismo. I think Gran Turismo was on there. Castlevania, and the list goes on. In this case, the game library is really going to help. And in my opinion, PS1 gets an A tier. It's pretty iconic. It's pretty good. Pretty good. So next up we have the PS2. I mean, what can you really say about the PS2 other than it's really just a cultural icon? I mean, it really is. I mean, growing up, it felt like the PS2 was absolutely everywhere. Like everybody had one. And for good reason too, because it's like the game library on the PS2 is ridiculous. Like it's so expansive. There were so many games for the PS2. And like what's crazy is that like they continue to release games for it like well after the entire console generation had passed. Like they were still releasing games into the 2010s. Even up to I think it was like 2013 or 14 was like the last one. It's like god damn, man. It's just crazy. The amount of selection you get as far as the game library on the PS2. So as far as like the user interface and I'm sure you guys remember like the intro screen is like totally iconic. Like when you boot it up and you get that crazy like whirring sound. And with all the like crazy floating graphics, I mean, everybody remembers that, man. It's just great. And also, you could also play movies off DVDs on the PS2, which back in the day was a pretty big deal. Because it's kind of like a two-in-one package. You get like a DVD player and a game console. You know, back then a lot of people had like a separate DVD player. You know, but with this, it's like a two-in-one type shit. And I could be wrong on this, but I think the PS2 was like one of the first consoles to have like the vertical stand type thing where, man, I forget if it came boxed in with or if you had to like buy it separately, but like, yeah, it's one of the earliest consoles I remember that had like you could either set it vertical, you could set it to the side, horizontal, and like either one was fine. But it's just kind of nice to have that option. You know, you can make it look nice in whatever your setup is in your house. And you know, in terms of the graphical horsepower, the PS2 was capable of more than I think a lot of people really remember. If you've ever played like Silent Hill 3 or Final Fantasy 10, like you know what I mean. Like the PS2, like it can go hard. It can go kind of hard in the graphics department, man. So for me, PS2, I mean it's just S tier, man. It's got to be S tier. It's too iconic, man. All right, so the GameCube is up next. So I think I'll start off by going over like the externals and the peripherals that the GameCube had, because it had quite a few. So there was like a GBA like port device that like allowed you to play Game Boy Advance cartridges like off your GameCube and it would be like blown up onto your TV. I never actually had one, but I know it was out there and that's pretty dope. That's pretty cool. There was also like a little microphone attachment that you could like plug in and certain games could like read your voice. I know it was a thing in like one of the Mario Party games I used to have used to use that little mic. To be honest, the mic was not very good quality. It was kind of like cheap plastic little piece of shit. I don't know, man. It's just kind of like gimmicky and like nobody's ever going to use this outside of like this one specific situation, but I mean, it's there, I guess. Also, there was a separate GBA thing. It was a connector port for certain games where you could like hook it into your Game Boy, and then you could like transfer in-game items from like your Game Boy Advance game onto a different game on the GameCube. You could like trade shit with yourself. It was pretty crazy. That was pretty cool. I don't know how many games actually supported that, but it's a really cool idea. Um, let's see what's next for the GameCube. Let me think. Oh, okay. I'm of the belief that the GameCube controller is one of the best controllers ever made. Though I do have criticisms of it. For one, the Z button, it's right up there by the like the R, the shoulder button. I feel like on every controller I had, it was like way too stiff. Like when you press down on it, it feels like that shit like it barely moves, like it barely even registers. And also the C stick, the little yellow, the camera stick, that was like way too small. It's way too small. It just kind of like feels weird. Um, and that was another kind of is kind of an issue with the stiffness. Like sometimes it felt like it didn't move around as freely as it should. Um, so yeah, but like the overall layout of the controller and like the just like the ergonomics and the controller feel. I mean, it just feels good in your hand, in my opinion. Like it feels natural. And I like the different size of the face buttons, like the big green A button, the little B on the side. You know, it just feels pretty good. And as far as the games, GameCube had some pretty fire exclusives. S- Some pretty fire exclusives. So you got Smash Melee is obviously the biggest one. You know, you got Metroid Prime, you got Animal Crossing. I mean, Smash Melee alone is like a console seller. It really is. I mean, that game is just god tier. I mean, there's a whole community around it even today, still going strong, you know? Now, I will say the user interface of the GameCube was a little bit weird. If you guys remember, you could like when you were booting it up to get into the operating system, you had to like hold down A, or was it Z you had to hold down? It was one of the two, it doesn't matter. But you had to like hold down A on your controller and then like during the startup screen, and then the startup screen would kind of like transition and it would like be like this rotating cube thing. And that's where all the like menus were. They were on like this rotating shit in the middle of the screen. I mean, it looked cool, but like navigating it was kind of just like, what the fuck is this? It's kind of weird. Like the first time it happens, you're like, whoa, this is crazy. But then like the 10th time when you're trying to go in there and change your memory card or something, it's like, all right, this is kind of just give me a normal menu, dude. I don't need all this extra floating planet sphere cube shit. Like, get this shit out of here. Just give me a normal menu. I don't know. It's not that big of a deal, but like, eh. I would have preferred, I think, in the long run, just like a standard menu. Um, and I feel like I've said this for the other two consoles already, but this console could be pushed to some pretty crazy limits graphically. Um, if you go back and play, especially Metroid Prime, you're like, damn, this is almost like some PS3 type shit. Like it looks really, really good. That game specifically. Um, I think overall, the GameCube for me gets a B. Um, yeah, I wouldn't quite push it up into the A or the S tier. Because there's definitely some things I don't like about it. But I grew up with it. I didn't have a ton of games for it, but I still feel like the game library is solid, but it's definitely one of the smaller ones. In general, I mean, especially compared to the PS2, it's a pretty small game library, but you do have some good games in there. So I say B is fair. I think B is fair. Maybe if I was in a different mood, I'd give it an A, but I think B is fair. All right, so the PS3. Low key, the PS3 is kind of ass, man. Maybe it's not like ass, but like, listen, like I spent a long time and a lot of money on this console, right? It was my daily driver for gaming from like 2011 to like 2016. Now that may not sound like super long, but like I said, I mean like 99% of my gaming time during that period was only on the PS3. Like it's my daily driver, right? At that time I didn't use PC or Xbox or anything like that. You know, my main gripe with this is that the PS3, there was no party chat system in online games, meaning the only way to talk to people was through actual, like, in-game lobbies. Meanwhile, the 360 had a full party system where everybody could be in a different game and talking to each other all at the same time on like a separate party system within the Xbox user interface. So I don't know who the fuck at Sony like fucked that up, but it's such a clear advantage for Xbox. Like it's a huge advantage for online gaming. Like it's not even close. So a pretty big flaw right there. Pretty big flaw. Um, as far as the PS3 controller, I mean, I already kind of explained my issues with the PlayStation controller in general, but PS3 is more the same as far as the controllers go. It's not bad, but it's not really all that good either. I think the PS3 was the one. This is the one where like the start button and the select button were like super like mushy. It was like almost felt like it was made out of Play-Doh. It's like that's kind of weird. I just don't like that mushy feel with controller buttons. It like give me something that kind of like clicks. That's what I like. But I don't know. It's all just preference. Like I mean, it's just a start button. I mean, who really gives a shit? But the user interface was pretty standard from what I remember. And they did offer like game specific like user interface. You get like themes for it, like menu themes when you boot it in. I mean, that was pretty cool. But I think, I could be wrong. I think you had to pay for those. Maybe you got a couple for free you could download, but yeah, I don't know. Those were cool though. As far as exclusives in like the game library, I gotta be honest, like I really just wasn't that impressed with the PS3. Infamous, that was a pretty cool game. Little Big Planet was like, maybe it's fun for like an hour or whatever, but eh, I could live without it. I will say Gran Turismo 5. That is God tier. That is a God tier racing game. One of my favorite racing games. That was a PS3 exclusive. I love that game. Um, but other than that, I didn't feel like there was anything really crazy that the PS3 had going for it. And I really have criticisms of this entire console generation, not just the PS3. I won't get too deep into it because that's really not what this video is about, but like I feel like a lot of the games from this generation specifically really just weren't anything special. And like this was the generation that really started a lot of bad trends, especially as far as like online gaming and like anti-consumer shit. So I kind of place the blame on this generation for a lot of that. Also, the PS3 tried to rip off the Wii with like really cheesy, terrible motion controls. I mean, granted, Xbox did the same thing, but yeah. Anyway, PS3, that's gonna get a C, in my opinion. So now we're at the Nintendo Wii. The Wii is kind of like a wild card for me, I think. This was like during that period where Nintendo was really doubling down on like gimmicks, and they stopped trying to make their own PlayStation slash Xbox slash Sega clones to directly compete. Like this was like they were branching out at this point. They want to have their own identity, do their own thing. Right? That's kind of where the Wii is at for me. And it's like I don't know, like the user interface was weird. If you guys remember, like when you boot it up, it had like all the different like channels on it. But it's like they were kind of like useless. There's like a news channel, weather channel. Like who the fuck? Come on, dude. Like nobody uses that shit. Nobody cares about all that extra stupid channel bullshit. I mean, the only cool one was like the or the Me Creator thing where you could like make your little characters. That was kind of fun. But it's like, other than that, man, just put me into the game. Stop all this extra. You want to check the news? No, motherfucker, I'm on my Wii. Why would I? Never mind. Um, so as far as the game library, I'll be honest, okay, I mean, I didn't have that many games for the Wii itself, but there were some bangers. There were some okay, so like Wii Sports, which if I remember correctly, came pre-bundled with a console purchase. As far as I know, like pretty much everybody had a copy of Wii Sports. And Wii Sports, like that shit was fire, dude. I don't care what anybody says, like, yeah, it's kind of cheesy or whatever. It's almost kind of like a demo disc rather than like a full-fledged game. But like, I don't know, that shit's kind of fun. Like you play tennis, bring some friends over, you play Wii bowling. Like that's pretty fun. I always had some fun with it. Um, what was that one Super Mario game? It came in like the red case. It was like the only Wii game that was in like a red case. I can't remember the name, but that game was fire. That was fire. Um, other than that, man, I don't know about the Wii. Like, it wasn't really like as far as like graphics, it was an upgrade from the GameCube, but like not by a whole lot, not by really anything substantial. Looked a little bit better, but like I said, that also kind of ties back into like I was saying, Nintendo at this point they were trying to stop directly competing with Xbox and all this shit. Like they don't really care about graphics as much at this point. They're just trying to do their own thing. obviously the whole console was built around the motion controls. And I don't know about you guys, maybe my Wii was just like fucked up, but if you remember that little black sensor bar you had to set up, that thing was always fucking up for me. Or maybe it was the controller that was fucking up, but like I remember I would try to start up my Wii and like the little cursor that you held in your hand, like you move it around, that shit would be glitching out all over the place and it was like unusable. I was like, what the fuck is going on? It was really annoying. I had that problem for a long time. Um, oh, an interesting thing about the Wii also is it had, maybe it was only specific models, but it was like it had built-in GameCube emulation. So like you take the top cover off, and that's when you would see all the ports for the GameCube controllers. You could like plug it in. You could even take like the little GameCube disc and put it in, and it would read it. It's like hell yeah, dude! Like to be honest, most of my time on the Wii was actually spent just emulating the GameCube. Funnily enough, so I don't know, man. Like the Wii, I definitely like some stuff about it. There's other stuff I've mentioned that it's like, I don't really get it, but I think the Wii is gonna be like a C tier for me. Maybe if I just played more games on it and I kind of branched out into the wider game library, maybe I'd move it up to a B. I don't know, man. I didn't really see a whole lot of Wii games that interested me, to be honest. All right, moving on. The Xbox One. Now, the model that I had, and it's pictured here, is the Xbox One S. I never had the fucking the original Xbox, like the big black giant hunk of shit. By the time the One S came out, like they really made the design like more sleek, more minimalist. Um, I think the One S was a little bit more powerful too, but yeah, this was the console where I transitioned into the Xbox ecosystem. And you know what, man? This the Xbox One was really just like the downfall of Xbox. I really got into Xbox at a bad time, man, because it was like I got in on like the one console, Xbox console was like, well, this is a failure. I mean, I don't know, man. Like the thing about it is like the marketing around it was like really bad, especially compared to PlayStation. There were a variety of like anti-consumer moves from Xbox during this time that made them just look really bad in comparison. And this was also kind of the time where Xbox exclusives were kind of like becoming a sham because everything was just getting ported to PC and like it kind of made it so that Xbox had effectively no exclusives because you could just play that shit on PC. It's like, why buy an Xbox? It's like, well, you know. And I'll be honest, like even the legacy exclusives for Xbox, like the Gears of War and the Halo, I'm not really into Gears of War. I'm not really into Halo that much. I think they're okay. I don't know. Okay, like the reason I even bought an Xbox was because that was what all my friends had. Like back in the day, I was the only guy with a PlayStation, with a PS3, and everybody I knew had Xboxes. I was like, well, fuck it. What am I doing being the only one on PlayStation? But in my mind, that's still a perfectly valid reason to buy a gaming console because it's like you want to play with your friends. So it's like I don't really regret it. So, the Xbox One, it has its downsides for sure. But it's like, oh man, I still had a fucking good time with this thing. And it's also like the console itself, it was like weirdly durable, like low key, like the One S was kind of a fucking tank, dude. You could beat the shit out of that thing. Like my One S is so like crusty and dusty and mistreated. I'm pretty sure I even dropped it one time on accident. But that shit's running like a dream, man. Like it still boots up, it runs, doesn't make any weird noises. Like it's kind of a fucking beast. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, Xbox One I can get C tier. If I was really, really hard on it, I would give it a D tier. Um, you know, that's Uh, that's pretty much how I feel about it. I'd say C is pretty reasonable, I think. Oh, and also one thing I forgot to mention, this was a problem with the PS4 too, a little bit. But this specific generation, the Xbox One and the PS4, especially the Xbox though, like it wasn't really that impressive in terms of like graphical capability. I forget what the exact issue was. But I think it was the CPU on the Xbox. It was like really like even at the time it was like kind of outdated. So I mean it's still a jump up from the 360 for sure. For sure it's a jump up from the 360 and a fairly substantial one. But like especially towards the end of the Xbox One life cycle, certain games were being released, especially like open world games. I was like, damn, man, the Xbox One, that shit would start chugging along like it would slow down, man. You could really start to notice some fucking frame drops for sure. Like, and, and, like I said, I'm sure this applies to PlayStation to some extent. I think it was just the console thing in general at this time. Like, they really just weren't that impressive as far as like, um, the graphical horsepower, computing power, whatever. So, but yeah, C tier. All right, so the final one, my current Xbox, the Xbox Series X. I'll be honest, it's really just like imagine if you took an Xbox One, put a Ferrari engine in it, and then just called it a day. It's literally kind of like it's just a beefed up Xbox One. It's like an Xbox One on fucking steroids. And the reason I say that is because the user interface is exactly the same. It's like one to one. They use the same exact operating system. Like there's no difference. So there's that. The controller is, they did actually make some subtle changes to the Series X controller. It is a little bit smaller than the Xbox One controllers. It's a little bit more compact. They changed some of the plastics that was used. Like instead of like the shiny, like translucent type plastic was more like a matte finish, which I definitely prefer that. And like I said, it's a smaller controller. It's a little bit heavier too, like it's kind of weighty. But in my opinion, okay, the Xbox Series X controller is the greatest controller ever made, bar none. It's like I don't know what it is. Like it just feels so comfortable, man. It doesn't even feel like you're holding a controller. I mean, no, that sounds retarded, but like it just feels really, really comfortable in your hands. It's like the perfect size, it's the perfect weight. Like I said, it's just heavy enough where it's like you don't feel like you're holding a cheap ass piece of like lightweight plastic. So like it's just heavy enough to give you that like tactical, like you could feel it in your hands. And like the thumbsticks are like the perfect fucking placement. The buttons are great. The D-pad is great. It's not like that horrible. This is what the Xbox One had. Like the Xbox One controller had that like shitty, like smushy, mushy fucking D-pad that didn't feel good. But with the Series X, it's like way more clicky. It's responsive, and I already mentioned that's what I prefer. That's what I really prefer. So I don't know, man. I just love the controller. I think it's God tier. I think it's God tier. But yeah, everything I kind of said about like the game ecosystem and all the exclusives, I mean, that kind of holds true for the Series X still. Because I mean, like I said, it's really just like a carbon copy of the Xbox One, just with way better graphics capabilities. But I mean, it has some cool features. I mean, one of the cool features is with the backwards compatibility. If you have an original Xbox One disc and that game is supported by Microsoft, you can literally put an original Xbox One disc into your Series X and it'll read it and it'll work. That's pretty fucking badass. And the same goes with the 360 discs, right? And what they did was for certain 360 games, they went back and and they gave them like frame rate boost and like visual boost. Like you upgrade the fucking, you just get like a better frame rate. Like they moved a lot of games that were 30 FPS onto 60 on the Series X. It's like, dude, that's fucking dope as shit. Especially if you're moving from the 360, uh, all the way up to Series X. It's like you get all that, you get rewarded for staying within the Xbox ecosystem. And as far as I'm aware, I'm not 100%, but there are certain games that Xbox offers, um, frame rate boost and patches for that PlayStation does not. So Xbox kind of has a little bit of an edge, I think, in backwards compatibility. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't looked into all the details. I'm not a PlayStation guy at this point, but somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. But as far as I know, Xbox kind of has an edge in that department. And they also introduced stuff like quick resume where you can just like pause a game and then like switch to another app on your console and it'll like freeze the game. And then like once you're done, you could go back and pick up right where you left off. I honestly never use it, but I mean it's there. That's kind of cool. As far as the graphical capability, I'll be honest, in my opinion, it's pretty fucking beastly. I mean, it's not as good as the PC, obviously, but I mean, it's pretty respectable, man. It's pretty respectable. There really aren't many games that I played on the Series X where I was like, damn, if only this console was a little bit more powerful. I was like, nah, like, everything's running smooth for me, man. I haven't had any issues with like crazy frame drops or like consoles chugging along. Everything for me has been smooth as shit. So I really can't complain. And Xbox, especially within the last decade, of course, they've gotten blown out by PlayStation in a variety of ways, but like I'll be honest, man, like shit's fine with me. Like I don't really regret having an Xbox. I mean, I'm sure having a PlayStation, I would have had an edge in some other areas, like with some exclusives and shit like that. But I mean, I really don't think Xbox is like the horror show that people think it is. I mean, shit's fine with me, man. It plays your games, it plays them well. I mean, what the fuck else do you really need? I don't know. I think Series X, um, I don't know if it really deserves an A tier, man. 'Cause I don't know. I mean, like I said, kind of with what I was saying about the PS3, I kind of have criticisms of the entire generation, the current console generation. So that kind of plays into it. But I think the Series X gets a B. I think it gets a B. I mean, I've had a great time with it. Um, there's definitely things I don't like about the Xbox ecosystem. Obviously, it's run by Microsoft, so you already know there's going to be some anti-consumer bullshit in place. But, at this point, even Sony is guilty of that. I mean, everybody knows about the recent news, so fuck, man, what can you even do? That's just kind of the way the current console generation is. But yeah, this is my tier list for all the consoles that I've owned. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And I will say, I don't know how many more consoles I plan on owning. I mean, especially with the way shit's going now and everything's moving all digital, it's like, man, kind of fuck consoles at this point, man. Especially because, last year I got a really capable, computer for gaming. It's my first real like computer that's been able to like actually handle like AAA games. And once you move on to that, it's kind of just like, man, why the fuck would I ever go? But like, you kind of hate to say it, but the PC bros were kind of right all along, man. And especially now with consoles, I mean, we see so many anti-consumer moves. They want to lock you into their stupid digital marketplace. They don't want you to have discs. They don't want you to be able to lend a game to your buddy. They don't want you to be able to sell it. They don't want you to trade that shit in. They want you to buy their overpriced digital bullshit that they can delist and remove from your account for no fucking reason. It's like, fuck that shit, man. Like, if you're on PC, like, especially with like emulation now, and that's really why I'm like a huge advocator of emulation. Man, if you get like an emulator and you get like your ROMs, what you do is like you take your ROMs, right? You load that shit up. You can play them on an emulator, of course. But you take the ROMs and you load that shit up onto a hard drive. Take that hard drive, put it on the shelf, and guess what? That's yours. Those games are yours forever. Nobody can take it from you. They can't delist it from your fucking hard drive, right? They can't come and say, "Oh, no, we don't offer this anymore." Fuck that, man. That shit is yours. You can do whatever you want with it. You can make copies. You can send that shit to your friend. You could transfer it to another computer. So it's like at this point, man, it's the most consumer friendly option. If you care about owning your games and like keeping a collection, especially for like older console games, I mean, emulation is your best friend. It is absolutely your best friend in that department. I mean, it's important, man. It's important, in my opinion, to have a big community around emulation right now, in my opinion. But anyway, that's the end of my tier list. Thanks for watching.